Okay, I'm gonna do the best that I can with this one, okay? And I'm sure people are gonna come in the comments and correct me on things, but this is the best I got for you. Okay, Project 2025. So, depending on who you listen to, it's either a dangerous plan to overthrow democracy or it's a long overdue attempt to fix a bloated, broken government. Let's sort it out without all of the hysteria. Project 2025 isn't a law. It's not a secret takeover plan. It's a policy blueprint that was created by the Heritage Foundation and other conservative groups. It's basically designed as a guide for any future Republican administration. And this is not the first time that they have put this forward, by the way. I don't know, think of it as like a transition manual to make a plan to make government work the way that voters expect it to. It outlines ideas for every federal department and how to streamline, cut waste, restore accountability, and put decision making back into the hands of elected leadership instead of unelected bureaucrats. That's the heart of it: accountability and efficiency. Here's the backstory that the headlines leave out. For decades, both parties have complained about the so called deep state, career officials and agencies that often outlast presidents and quietly and maybe not so quietly shape policy no matter who wins an election. Project 2025 was born from that frustration. Conservatives wanted a ready to go roadmap in case they won power again. The logic being so that they don't spend 2 years figuring out who does what and fighting the same bureaucratic resistance that slows everything down. So, in plain English, it's an effort to right a ship that's been listing for years. Too much red tape, too little accountability, and far too much political bias inside supposedly neutral institutions. Now, the left sees this very differently. They argue that centralizing power in the executive branch could erode checks and balances. They worry that replacing career officials with political appointees might politicize the system and endanger civil rights or social programs. And those are legitimate concerns in theory, but they often assume the worst intentions instead of asking the obvious questions. Why do people feel this level of reform became necessary in the first place? If the government were functioning with fairness and transparency, there wouldn't be a market for a 900-page plan to overhaul it. Look at the timing. After years of runaway spending, overreach by agencies, censorship scandals, and a public sense that Washington plays by its own rules, Project 2025 reads less like a coup and more like a course correction. It's basically saying we need to restore balance between elected authority and the bureaucracy. While every idea on it isn't perfect, some are sweeping, even risky, the underlying motive is simple: make government serve the people again, not itself. Critics call it dangerous, others call it governing the way it was intended. The truth is, Project 2025 isn't a villain or a savior. It's a response to decades of frustration with the unaccountable agencies and partisan policies that have been hidden behind neutral titles and leaders who campaign on change but hand the wheel right back to the same establishment time and again. That's what's really driving this conversation. And while the left frames it as a threat to democracy, many, and I mean many, Americans see it as an attempt to restore democracy by putting power closer to the voters again. So before everybody panics, maybe just listen and read and, I don't know, think for ourselves. Because when one side screams authoritarianism and the other yells reform, the truth probably lives somewhere right smack in the middle, with a little less fear and a lot more reason. The truth is, if we can't talk about big ideas without losing our minds, then maybe that's the real problem and not the people trying to fix it.